Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Dr. Angela Celeste May. I am a doctor of clinical, organizational, and forensic psychology, president of AMA and Associates Incorporated, where we do counseling, consulting, and coaching, including creative coaching. I'm also a college professor in the field of psychology. I am an author of several articles, etc., including the book Freedom: What is the Experience of Living Without Negative Self-Imposed Limitations, which you can find. I'll put a link below, and you can also find it on barnesandnoble.com, exlibris.com, and also Amazon. I also am a public speaker, and I am a professional musician. And this channel, we focus predominantly on music stuff. So I'm a professional vocalist, first and foremost. Not first and foremost. I was a violinist and flutist first, and then I was always in love with music, with singing. So I became a professional singer at age 16. I have a degree in voice performance. I teach music, and I am president of Celeste Productions. So I'm a recording artist, producer. I teach music as well, as I said, and I perform. I'm blessed to perform all over the world. I have headed and put together several bands. So do lots of things that I love. And I'm still playing instruments. I'm a violinist, violist, flutist, and pianist. So, like I said, on this channel, we focus on primarily the music aspects. So I have a few series. I have a vocal quick tip series in which there's over 40 videos and quick tips for you that can be used. I have a genres of music series as well. And that's what I'm on here now to talk to you about and add to that library. So before we get started, if you would like this video, click and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that you can be notified when I add more content. So without further ado, let us address today's subject in the understanding genres of music. What did I call it? Series. Understanding genres of music series. Excuse me. I have an excellent question, a very interesting question by Joseph J 1102. And Joseph J started by saying, this was a comment on my vocal and instrumental runs dealing with R&B improvisation video that I did about a month ago. So Joseph J starts out by saying, okay, I just lost it. I got it back. I so much appreciate your quick response and thorough answer to my question. Thank you. I'm glad I could help. I sense some kind of collaborative project coming on in the future. Well, one never knows. Hopefully, you can post a video soon enough to answer this question. So here's the question. Oh, before I ask the question, let me reiterate, as I have said before, I try to be somewhat semi-regular after taking a long break. I try to be somewhat semi-regular with posting content, but with life and travel and performing, and I have students I'm preparing for their performances and all kinds of stuff going on. We're not posting every week. That is not what is happening at this time. So I might be able to do every 3 weeks, once a month. I'm trying. Keep that in mind. So this is my response from the month ago. Okay, it says, the project I'm currently working on traces the origins of slow jams, aka slow jams. So I'm not sure if Joseph J, if you meant to repeat slow jams or if you meant slow drag, which I think you might have meant. Anyway, continuing. There is not very little academic research, meaning there's very little academic research on this. However, the slow drag dance and its appearance within certain archives and books gives some clues. Simply put, blues music was the slow jam bump and grind music of its time during the juke joint heydays, and eventually, as the music evolved, it developed faster tempos to accommodate more of a respectable audience. The slower form of blues still remained for the more quote unquote shady types of after hour I'm sorry, yeah, after hour crowds. This slower form is the quiet storm slow jams we know today. Does this jive with your understanding of its roots and evolution? Okay, so Joseph J. I'm sorry, am I saying it right? Joseph J. Yes, 1102. Excellent question. Very excellent question. So let's get right into it. I'm familiar with in terms of like I've read about and seen in movies, juke joints, etc. But I did not know a lot about them. I've never been to one. Many African Americans have either never heard of them, or if they've heard of them, had not been to them, depending. And then there are those who had, of course. So I did do a little research to try and answer this question. Okay, so first of all, let us start by dealing with the blues first, which is the older format, of course, and then we'll talk about um, the more recent, more current quiet storm music genre of today and of the last few days. I'm just rechecking, yeah, quiet storm, rechecking the question, making sure I'm addressing this properly. Okay, so starting with blues, as I have stated in different videos in this series, do look below for series information. Um, Blues is one of the oldest forms of music that we have here in America. It is rooted in deeply rooted in African music, and so our African Americans, those who were enslaved, basically it developed it. So as with much of the music in America, this blues was based in the songs of those who were enslaved. The oldest parts of the history of blues is that it's a compilation of like work songs, what were called field hollers, where it was the only instrument was the voice, and there were field hollers where they would, make up songs while they worked in the fields. Also, there's church music influences in that. That includes, of course, the oldest form in this country, which is the Negro spirituals, and then also, of course, folk music as well. So, all of that, coming together to create what we became to know as blues music. Okay, so one thing I want to clear up in terms of tempo. Let's just deal with tempo. The original blues songs of the late 1800s, from the things that I have read, blues can be traced back to shortly after or right after the Civil War, end of the Civil War, which ended in 1865. So blues music kind of grew out of this amalgamation of song types that I just mentioned, song genres, and we had blues that developed from that. So the original songs in this blues genre actually were faster songs, and then the tempo got slower as blues became more popular. So it was really the other way around. I want to, let me see, I'm going to give you all a more concrete example of the tempos of the blues songs. So basically, as we've come to know it over the years, blues songs in this day and age have a range. Generally speaking, blues songs have a wide range of tempos from as slow as 40 to as fast as 100. So I want to give you all an idea of what that sounds like. If you have a metronome at home, or you could just pull up a metronome, a digital metronome like I'm doing. I have one at home here also, but pull up one on your phone. Just Google metronome, and you'll get a digital one. So this is the slow end of blues music at 40 tempo. Do you hear that? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So you hear how slow that is, right? So in terms of musical language that we use when we're reading music on a staff paper, etc., and some of the music terminology that we use, 40 is considered largo. So it's one of the slowest tempos that you can have in any song, and if not the slowest, about the slowest. And so it's a slow and broad tempo. As I said, the range of blues songs goes from there up to 100. So here is what 100 sounds like on the metronome. One, two, three, four, one. So you hear how fast that is? If you can hear it, I hope you can hear it. Two, three, four. So uh, that's quite a range from that really slow two, three, four, all the way to what we just heard at one, two, three. So that 100, that high end, and I'm sorry, the fastest end, highest, fastest end of blues songs, we call that allegretto, allegretto. So in terms of musical terms for tempos. So that's quite a broad range. So let's keep that in mind. The original blues songs were faster, closer to the allegretto, got slower over time as the style of music became more popular. Okay, so that's a little bit of the background of music. Now, for those who may not know what a juke joint is, let's define juke joints. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind about juke joints is that juke joints, as they say, they are never built. You don't build a juke joint. They are appropriated. You know, they took spaces that were already there. Sometimes they wouldn't even be inside or indoors. They may be out in the middle of a field, could be the juke joint. It could be at someone's house, could be a juke joint. It could be a converted shack, could be a juke joint. The point was, these were places where Black folks could gather, safe spaces where Black folks could gather together and enjoy themselves, have a good time, listen to music, live musicians, blues musicians. A lot of them got their career started from within these juke joints. They could dance, eat cheap food. There was gambling that went on, drinking, and just having a good time, in safe spaces where they would not be harassed or dealing with the horrible racist climates in which they lived. So that's basically what juke joints were. Um, they're mostly not around anymore, but there are a few juke joints that are still in existence. There's at least one or two in Mississippi, as I understand it, and a few that are around. But basically, as I'm looking at notes over here, basically juke joints. The term juke, there's some disagreement among scholars about where that term comes from. Some say it's a Creole term that comes out of Juga. I'm probably saying it wrong, which means bad or wicked, probably because of the gambling and things that went on at juke joints. Others say it's a term that means juice. Um, so people are kind of like debating on where it came from. I'm leaning more towards that Creole word, actually, possibly. So that's what a juke joint is, basically. That's where that term comes from. Okay, so in terms of the music that was played in juke joints, like we said, yes, it started with blues music that was played by musicians. Then ragtime. Ragtime was introduced, and people enjoyed hearing that music as well. And if you all know anything about ragtime, like look it up. It's wonderful. Again, music rooted in Black. I start to say Black history, Black traditions. Um, and then a little bit later, boogie woogie was added. Boogie woogie became really, really popular in the late 1920s, but it had been around since the 1800s, basically. So over time, that also became added to the kinds of music that people were listening to and enjoying. And well, I started to say side note. It's not really a side note, but as I've mentioned in one of my other understanding genres of music videos, so much music was invented and grew out of Negro spirituals and original Black music, including blues. And there are those who also say, and I'm not surprised, that rock and roll, which became known as rock, was born in juke joints as well. Okay, so slow drag. Slow drag is it's blues was already around, fast blues, then slower blues over time, as the genre became more popular. Slow drag is actually, it's the the slow blues music to accompany the dance style. So slow drag, of course, is a dance style that was danced oftentimes in juke joints. And I'm looking again down here to give you more information from my notes here. Okay, so um, slow drag is an American ragtime jazz musical form. So I mentioned that ragtime also came to be played in juke joints, and so slow drag comes out of that ragtime jazz musical tradition, and it's a social dance form, as I mentioned. So it's the slow drag dance. The dance part of that is one of the earliest blues dance idioms and still popular today. So it was one of the earliest slash oldest dance forms to be danced to slow blues music. However, again, just to reiterate, that does not mean that blues music was originally slow. It's just that when they did slow songs, the slow drag dances kind of came up with those came along with those slow drag music dance songs. You know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, okay, so now we understand a little bit more about the origin of blues, tempo ranges, what juke joints were, and some of the music that was danced within juke joints. Okay, so now let's talk about the quiet storm genre of music. And I'll say genre in quotations and you'll find out why. Okay, so quiet storm. Quiet storm has a bit of controversy around it. So first I want to say this, that from everything that I'm reading, from my understanding, and really from what I was aware of in terms of this aspect, even before this question came up, quiet storm it is not related in any direct way to slow drag forms of blues music, other than the fact that they both have slow tempo. Like I think that's just about it. They're both slow, ballady types of songs for slower dancing. But other than that, I don't believe. Now, if I could be wrong, if you all find something out, let me know in the comments. If you see something in research, but to my knowledge, they're not related in that way. However, okay, so getting back to Quiet Storm and its origins. So Quiet Storm is a relatively new genre, which I believe our commenter also said that as well. Of course, you did say that Quiet Storm music is more recent, which it is. Um, the origin of it is the fact that it came from a late night DJ intern at Howard University. Yay for Howard. I have no direct connection to Howard other than I know it's an excellent HBCU, historically black college. It's very, very well known and has excellent reputation. Anyway, so Quiet Storm is a type of music. Um, it is a late night black radio format that recontextualizes R&B, which is rhythm and blues, and soul slow jams into playlists. So that late night radio DJ who first introduced this idea of quiet storm music, his name was Melvin Lindsay. He was a radio and television personality in Washington D.C., and so he's credited with that. So when he was an intern at Howard before he, you know, got going in his career in radio and television, basically one night he was playing some, music on rotation, and they were all of that similar quiet, kind of slow, not kind of quiet, slow, romantic kind of music. And the folks who were listening in the Washington D.C. area just absolutely loved it, and it caught on what he was playing in his rotation got very, very popular, so that other DJs started to copy what he was doing as well, and then it kind of took off from there. Um, More about Quiet Storm. The controversy that I mentioned a moment ago is that there are critics of Quiet Storm music because, well, there's always critics of every kind of music, but because some say that it really appropriates R&B and slow and soul, slower ballads. It appropriates it. So basically, you're kind of like you're not stealing, we'll say that, but you're taking just the slow songs from R&B artists, just the slow songs from soul artists. So R&B and soul artists may have this whole like, repertoire of music, lots of stuff they're putting out slow and fast, but Quiet Storm playlists, this is part of the criticism. It was like they were commercialized playlists that were created, which they were created by radio DJs, and therefore, instead of playing a fuller range of that particular artist's music and records, etc., that they put out, they would just pluck out only the ballady stuff of different artists. And by creating playlists only from those ballads, only from those slow songs, to create their Quiet Storm playlists, they, how can I say it? They like cut out the fullness of what that particular artist was about. So let's say that our soul artist, let's put it this way. That's like saying that a really famous, doesn't be famous, but a really excellent soul artist who has this like repertoire of fast songs and slow songs, and they're just like amazing what they do, even politicized songs. Because remember, we in the last video we talked about the protest aspects of soul music, and so it's very rich what goes on in a lot of these songs, or within the repertoire of a particular artist. So you have the DJ who comes along to create, and as some of the critics are saying, artificially create this playlist where you're not hearing all that Aretha Franklin is about, as an example, as a soul artist. You're just pulling out just her ballad stuff. And so for the Quiet Storm, as the critique goes, for the Quiet Storm listener, they're only going to know her by just those slow ballads, those, I'm just being hypothetical, those like one or two, she had more than that, of course, but the fewer slow ballads that she did, or just the slow ballads that Aretha Franklin did. And they have no idea of all those amazing up-tempo songs that she did. They actually think like that's her genre. So that's a big part of the critique of Quiet Storm music. I'm going to, from the things I've read, I'm going to use the term kind of artificially created, which may not be completely fair. I don't want anybody to come after me, but like I said, it's not showing the fullness of what that artist put out. You're just plucking the ballad stuff. And so that's what your listener thinks, that that's all that Aretha Franklin did, or that's all that, whomever the artist may be in soul and R&B, whatever. So that is why there are those who say Quiet Storm music appropriates R&B and soul slow jams. It's not showing the fullness of these artists, just the parts to make this list, and recontextualizes them into rotations, like playlist rotations on their radio stations, with their peers and predecessors. An artist might only have one ballad on an album, but to Quiet Storm listeners, it might be the only track they hear. So again, the artist may put out like all this fantastic upbeat music, and then they put out a slow ballad, which is also fantastic. But the point is, instead of just letting the listeners learn about who this artist is and what they're doing and what they're putting out in terms of playing it, you're just picking the slow. And so that's what your listener thinks, that's all that they like produce. Okay, so that's some of the like kind of critiques of Quiet Storm a bit. But Quiet Storm, it came about in the night pretty well. I think I didn't say, did I forget to say? I forgot to say when this DJ intern did this at Howard University. This was in the early part of the 1970s. Actually, it was I think it was early to mid 1970s, I think it was, when the Quiet Storm style of music was started. And so it started with the slow songs of R&B and soul, but then over time, slow songs by pop artists, slow songs by, different genres were put in there, so that now some say that Quiet Storm is a genre. Some say it's not really a genre. It's kind of like artificial, as I said. Some call it a super genre because under the umbrella of Quiet Storm music are just songs from just all kinds of different genres. What do they all have in common? they have slow tempos. They have like smooth delivery, romantic kind of feel, to them, whether they are instrumental or whether they have lyrics or not. So yeah, that is the history of um, the slow drag dance and slow blues songs in juke joints and what juke joints are, and then the history, of course, of the quiet storm. So I hope that answered your question. It was an excellent question. Gave me a chance to dive a little bit more into some of this. Um, so yeah, I'm just, as I do, just rereading a little bit of what you had written, to make sure I answered everything. So I hope that answers it for you. There was one other thing that I am seeing from the question before we end, and that is, um, as I was reading earlier at the beginning, you do state that the slower form of blues still remained. I'm quoting from what you had written. The slower form of blues still remained for the more shady types of after hour crowds. So again, that sounds um, I could be wrong, but that sounds a little bit more like the folklore, the stereotype, the the Hollywood movie version a little bit more. That, so I'm not sure where you saw that. Like, let me know. Maybe you did read it in something that was on the more scholarly side that had actually been well researched. Um, but and I could be wrong. Let me know. But my impression is that, again, that's more of the stereotype kind of, oh, the slow shady stuff was just for the for the juke joint, and the upbeat was for the that was for the respectable crowds, when in fact, as I mentioned earlier, um ragtime, fast blues, all of that was played in juke joints. And we know how fast ragtime is, if for those of you who know, and for those of you, like I said, if you're not familiar, do look it up. It's great music. um so yeah, I hope that helps. And I so appreciate your question, your comment. Thank you to my subscribers. Love you so much. If you're not subscribed yet, consider it. But thank you for stopping by. And again, I so appreciate you all. Comment below. Let me know if you have some questions. Let me know if you have something you'd like to add, or give me more information. That's all cool. And let me know if what more or other things you'd like me to cover in the music area. Um, Certainly in this understanding genres of music series that I have, but other music questions that you may have, even if it's about vocal production or whatever. Anyway, last thing I will say is it is December. What is it? December 2nd. It's December 2nd, 2024. If you are in the Detroit area, excuse me, this year is the 50th anniversary of a wonderful tradition here in Detroit, and that is Noel Night. Um, excuse me, of Noel Night. Noel Night is a wonderful tradition every year in the cultural center area of Detroit, also known as the Wayne State University area, also known as Midtown. Um, but all of the cultural areas, that's where all of our many of our main museums are. So we have the African American Charles H. Wright African American Museum, the Detroit Institute of Arts (DIA). We have the public library, just all these wonderful cultural, rich, iconic places that we love so much. They are all open and it's free of charge, and there's music and dance and all kinds of wonderful celebration of the arts and food and all kinds of stuff that goes on the first Saturday of every December. So first Saturday of this month, which is coming up at the end of the week, Saturday, I will be at, where will we be? I will be playing violin. I play violin and viola with the Violin Divas here in Detroit. So I will be playing viola along with the Violin Divas. We have performed at Noel Night for many years now, and we will be at the DIA in the lecture hall from 4 p.m. to 4:45 p.m. So we're doing a 45-minute set. So it's free to everyone. Come down, bring the family and kids if you're in town. So yeah, we're just doing that short set. But of course, Noel Night, it starts at 3 and it just goes on into the evening as well. You can always Google it, look it up. Noel Night, Detroit 2024. Just want to let you know that. In the meantime, God bless. Take care and take care of yourself. I might not see you before the new year, but have a blessed, celebratory, safe, and enjoyable, and hopefully restful. Get a little rest in there. Finishing out and ending of your year. So, God bless. Take care. And Lord willing, I'll talk to you soon.